continues. Now we're in scene and go. What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Linc'd in the Endzone episode 4 is brought to you by Sideline Sports, of course, an extension off of the LinkedIn podcast with yours truly, the co-host. Linc'd Endzone is in the house, and longtime friend in the YouTube universe is joining me for this one, in which he has established a network for himself that's doing pretty darn well. So success across the board for a lot of Eagles content creators that like to branch out. Mitch Kofsky are joining me from Hardcore Sports Network. And yes, I did not catch the fact that your logo actually changed when I put the old one on, but it's still the same place. But good to have you here, man. What is going on lately?
Hey, I've been doing my thing, talking birds, talking Sixers. I actually just joined another network too called Edge of Philly Sports,
Right
where
on, yeah.
we cover all four sports, all four Philly, and it's great. I'm involved in more networks, not just this. So, yeah. Hey, what is up, Caitlin? What is up?
Looks like there's more than one person that's excited for you to be here because it has been quite a while. I honestly should have went back on my old material on my channel, and I could bring it up now. I don't care. But what was it? Touchdown talk. My
Yeah.
goodness, what was the last episode? And you know what? Yeah, you know what? Let me do that here if it's quick enough for me, because my new laptop has been very quick. So let's see here. You were not on my channel in wow. Okay. It's been a year. You were on
Wow.
Touchdown Talk for episode 9.
Okay, wow. That brings me. That's insane. And remember
Yeah.
this? Yeah, remember this? It was me, you, my buddy Tyler, and another person who I'm not going to bring up. We were doing the NFL draft. Remember that? We were streaming the draft the first night.
Yes. Yes, that was I think that was one of the I was thinking of that the other day. That was one of the very first collaborations that I had with a
Yep.
individual on YouTube. Um, my goodness, that was at least 3 years ago now. It has to be 3 years going into 24.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
It's
And
crazy. And my buddy Tyler wanted me to tell you how you doing, and he gives you his best.
that's awesome. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Because I know Tyler has a show that he has been doing alongside in terms. I think in terms of Eagles football, but
Yeah, he's
yeah, it's
actually he helps me run the Hardcore Sports Network. So
okay.
it's me, AK, and him.
Right on. Yep.
Yeah.
Because AK now has NFL Reality Check. Yep.
Yeah.
And it's been a while for him. So with the almost 5-minute rendezvous and reminisce out of the way, you told me earlier in the week that you are going to have a lot to say on Linc'd in the Endzone. So it looks like episode 4 is going to be jam-packed with rants and irritation, disgust, and whatever else you want to bring to the table that has not already been added to the podcast that happened at noon, may I add. LinkedIn episode 43, and for those that did not see the thumbnail, that was a bit of a gag. I know it's probably it'd probably be touchy that I had Coach cry some Cowboys tears, but we did that on LinkedIn for the first victory, and we got our what's handed to us. So I'm gonna start from the very beginning, going into this second prime time football game in back-to-back weeks. The Eagles squandered their first opportunity against the 49ers, and they managed to score only 19 points. San Fran comes into Lincoln Financial Field, where the NFC Championship game of last year happens. We get embarrassed. They say they're going to fix things. We come into the next week against the Cowboys. We have to go to Jerry World. We have lost the last 4 there. And whatever was supposed to be fixed was not fixed and actually looked to be a worse product than what they showed against the 49ers, especially with those 3 turnovers. But before we get into that, because I'm sure that's where a lot of your irritation is going to come from, with all the context included that we just got over, what were you thinking initially, as in what you wanted to see going into the Cowboys game, and how you're feeling now with the result all said and done?
So for me, looking forward to this game, I was looking for a hard fought battle, NFC East battle. We're both going at it back and forth, and just them doing their thing, and just making it a better game. For this game right now, it was just like they gave up. Like to me, there was no heart, no mind was on their game. It was just like really bad showing. It was a really bad showing, and now how I feel about it, we are 10-3. I'm not one of those guys that wants to like fire everybody, kind of like what the Chargers did after they lost to the who was it to? I forget the
No,
Raiders.
the Raiders put us, of all teams this year, the Raiders put a 60 piece
Of course,
on.
right?
Wow.
So I'm like, okay, we're not gonna fire everybody. I just want to see how this unfolds. I had us going 13-4, so I'm
Hmm.
right there, like on that track. So
Pretty close.
yeah, I'm right there. So for me, I'm just like, just let's just play the season out. We got winnable games coming up. We got 2 Giants, we got the Cardinals, and we got Seattle coming up. Seattle, I am a little nervous. I'm sure we'll talk about that later.
Hmm.
But for me, it's not that bad. I guess I was just in the moment when I told you that. I was like, man, I got a lot to say.
Fair enough, though, to just about every Eagles fan that has gone over this, and I think where a lot of it stings the most is the fact of the timing that it's happening.
Yeah.
This late in the year, you're getting closer and closer to a team that has established the number 1 seed in the NFC for consecutive weeks. Everyone else is trying to play catch up. We're at the top of the pyramid. We're at the top of the po, uh, totem pole. I said totem pole. My goodness. We're at the top of the totem pole, looking down on everybody else. We're establishing this sort of superiority, and yet we're battling in the trenches, and we're fighting this adversity of the criticism of this team can only, this team has not had a convincing win. They're all close games. They're still making the mistakes, but they find a way to win, and they they create this they create this callous of keeping the main thing. And to an extent, it is true when Jalen Hurts says it, and he has been saying it for the longest time. But there comes a point where you just get in this means of a lot of the mistakes they're making and creating for themselves. Why are they continuing to rear their ugly head? Because I remember going into the game against the 49ers, and they get away with it against the Bills, and they get away with it against the Vikings, the Patriots, to an extent, before the Dolphins just couldn't catch up. We were doing it a little bit against the Dolphins, which a lot of people say was our most complete game. I mean, I'm at the point where when are we going to see, if we haven't already, when are we going to see a complete game from this football team? It's been a tale of 2 halves for just about the entire schedule. They either don't want to play the first half and then they dominate the second, or they do enough in the first half to where teams are having to play catch up the entire second half. And when they make it a close game, it's too late. Most notably the Vikings game. So it's like, where is your confidence level that the Eagles are capable of playing a complete game and what they need to do in order to achieve that?
So for me, my confidence level, if I had to go from 1 to 10, it's like a 7 right now, and
Okay.
that's because of the players we got. We got Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith. The defense, we got some dogs over there. But for me, why it's a 7, it's the play calling. It's obviously the play calling on the offense side of the ball where it's too predictable. It's the same like 3 or 4 plays time and time again. And then you go to the defensive side, which on the side, like you have cornerbacks off 10 yards. You are not blitzing at the right time. It's just like, it's not Eagles football. That's just my opinion. It doesn't feel like Eagles football to me. So that's why I give it a 7. Like, that is why. That is my confidence level.
So a seven on that scale is still pretty decent, is still pretty decently high. And you mentioned the point of, well, it's a lot of it has to do with the play calling on both sides of the ball, if
Yep.
you will. But I will mention this, and we both watched the same Cowboys game that, was unfortunately on display on Sunday Night Football. Where does it come to a point to you where maybe it's not just the play calling, but there has to be an established sense of responsibility that the players, have to execute and do what they're paid to do at the level that they play, especially when you mention three of the top guys, and in AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Jalen Hurts, Dallas Goddard in that mix too. But Goddard just came back from to play against the same team that injured him in the first place, and he contributed a little bit. But you named three of our top guys on offense, and all three of them fumbled the football. And we talked about this, me and James, on the LinkedIn podcast, and I mentioned towards the end of the show, I'm talking like, it's the analogy of, you're the new kid at school and you're the first target of the bully. Bully comes up to you, hand it over. You already know what he's talking about. You reach in your pocket, you give him your lunch money. That's the end of it. That's almost exactly what the Eagles did against Dallas, and it's like, in terms of ball security, and I know there's a lot more detail and there's a lot more nuance involved, but it's how easy they're able to punch the football out and create turnovers. Dallas came in with more of a purpose, so to speak, in saying that we don't believe you guys are as dominant as you say you are, and we're going to exploit what you don't do, and at the points that you're struggling, to which the Eagles are showing little resistance on the point of the players. So where do you draw the line between the perspective of play calling and the perspective of, well, if the players would execute some of the plays called, they wouldn't look as bad on the field than what we're actually saying on the surface.
Yeah. To me, it's just like everyone blames their play calling. Everybody blames it. You brought it up. Now, with the players executing that, maybe they're seeing different things out on the field. Maybe they're not thinking that play at the right moment. Their mind is just like not there and stuff like that. So it's just miscommunication between both sides. You can't just blame on the play calling. You can't. I mean, they're the coaches, yes, but it's off to the players to execute it. It's like chess, right? I love chess. I play chess all the time. If I do the wrong move, that's on me. But it's just like you get that. It's just like the players need to be held more accountable for this. So it's a little bit of both ways. I agree with you there.
All right, yeah, good deal. You good deal. And I mean, I thought but we're exhausted. We're exhausted at this point, and trying to figure out these issues. And a lot of times it stems from the fact that we get we get on the field and we get in these games, and it's almost sometimes it switches back and forth. So where
Mm,
the domino effect begins with either a play call that doesn't work against a particular coverage from the offensive point of things, either that starts it, or the other part that starts it is the players having poor execution on a certain play, or especially in the 49ers game with the film that was out there. Jalen Hurts had multiple opportunities with receivers either wide open during the routes, or he can throw them open. And a lot of those he just wasn't seeing, especially the fact that he had a lot of time in the pocket to make the right read, so on and so forth. So it's very difficult to, and I don't know why it's difficult to this point, but it has been hard for some reason for from an offensive point of things. It's been very hard for them to establish some sort of a balance between the execution and knowing what to call in a certain situation. So bouncing off of that, we see we see on a week to week basis fire Brian Johnson, fire Sean Desai, which has been a lot more noted
mhm.
in the last 2 weeks because statistically the Eagles have been getting worse and worse on the defensive side of things. But I think, to me, and we talked about this on the podcast, I think that there's a little more. I think there's a little more of a installed defense, or kind of a level of an excuse, but we don't want to use the word excuse because it's kind of a bad word to say. But if you think about it, the offense has been a lot healthier
Mhm.
than the defense has, especially from the beginning of the year. So I mean, where where do you stand? Where do you stand in terms of, and it can be obvious for how the defense looks statistically, but where do you stand in terms of how well or not Sean Desai has done his job in terms of where the defense is now, trying to go through those injuries and you know managing it, managing as best as he can.
When it comes to that, he's been dealt with a lot of injuries. The Eagles defense, we just lost Slay from Monday night. That's a huge blow.
Mm-hmm.
He is out.
Yep.
So Desai has to come up with something different to, use the players' ability, best, use their best foot forward, and just just come up with different schemes that work. It's just like it's not working with the schemes, and with the players being injured, you can't blame Desai for that. You can't. It's just like it's football. Any given Sunday, any given Monday, Thursday, whatever you want to say it now. It's just like, yeah, you can't blame injuries, and Desai has to fix up a few things, or a lot of things, as people like to say it.
How much of an excuse do you feel that creates for him, besides that fact of what somebody rebuttals and they say, well, you know this is a league of professionals. These guys are brought in to do a job throughout circumstance X, Y, and Z, and it's still his responsibility to have the defense performing at um, at a level of the expectation created from last year, how historically great the Eagles were defensively, and this year it has been going downhill at sort of the wrong point. So what level, what level to that extent, How much does that excuse apply to you, and how much doesn't it?
With the excuses, it's just like, how do I say this? It's just like Eagles fans always pick on one thing and keep on rolling with that. But it's just you. How do I say this? A lot of people are going to take this the wrong way. Um, it's not just excuses; it's both sides, right? That's exactly how I feel about it. So, can you just repeat that one more time?
Just the like so if in the in what we presented in the question that I presented before with you know, between the offense and the defense being a lot less healthy than the offense, and well, and saying, oh well, you know, Sean Desai has a bit of a some of that is warranted because his, you know, because his unit hasn't been as healthy as we were hoping, but at the same time, somebody bounces back and says, well, it's still his job to do, you know, it's still his job to
Mm-hmm.
set a standard, or um, have them live up to an expectation of what was displayed last year. So, you know, it's like what would your rebuttal to, what would your response be to someone saying that? Well, he still has to. It like I don't care about the excuses. He still has to get his guys going.
Yeah, of course he has to get his guys going. That is his job, you know. Just like get them in the right places, get them in the right spots, and just tell them where they got to be and what they got to do. And yes, we are missing some players from last year. Hargrave is gone. Garner Johnson is gone. That was the biggest blow. That was the biggest blow to our safety core. So it's just like, yes, he's missing a few players from last year. That's the biggest drop. Yes, there's injuries, but you still gotta hold them accountable, both sides accountable. So yeah, it's
So
just like,
with mentioning Hargrave and CJ Gardner Johnson, are you not as confident in both the defensive line and the safety group, even though we replaced Hargrave with Jalen Carter, who has been playing very well here and there as a rookie, and then their solution for the safety core was to add Kevin Byard?
yeah. So with the defensive line, it is great. Jalen Carter's gonna win Defensive Player of the Year or Rookie of the Year. Excuse me, Rookie of the Year.
You
And
believe
then when
that?
it comes to the safety room, comes to the safety and Bayard, that was a big move, yes. But I don't think he has played to that potential yet. I don't think he made a big splash, don't you? Do you think he's made a big splash? I don't think.
Do you also think at the same time that it was kind of what's the word I'm looking for that I used in the podcast, that we made do you think that Eagles fans made a bigger deal out of that than it really was, in saying that, you know, Kevin Byard isn't necessarily the player that he used to be from that all pro level, and we kind of raised the bar a little bit, and kind of got ahead of our of ourselves?
Yeah, that's typical Eagles fan. You see on social media, that's just typical Eagles fans. Look what happened with Shaquille Leonard, right? We just got him, and how many times did he snap? How many snaps did he have? Like 14, 15, something like that. So it's just like the Eagles fans always overhype players. I've been saying, guys, calm down. He's not like what these has. He's coming off a back lane injury, Shaquille Leonard. He's not going to be what he once was. It is an improvement for our linebacker group, but it's not like a big jump. We still have minor issues to fix. So Eagles are absolutely overvalue players. Absolutely.
And I think to the Shaq Leonard situation, I think there's more of a warrant to the fact that he hasn't been as healthy as Kevin Byard has to this point. There, you know, Kevin's a little bit older than Leonard, but the other point is the matter of, we knew what we were getting when we were bringing him in, as signing him only for the remainder of the season, and this is a guy that has come off of two back injuries, a couple of concussions, ankle issues. I think he had ankle surgery. I think he had back surgery for um, um, what is it? Not bulge discs, but something along the line where his discs were irritated, and I had a similar thing happen to myself in a car accident.
Mhm.
So it's like there's a lot of therapeutic recovery involved in that. So and he plays a position that's very physical, at the linebacker spot where we have been very inconsistent and very unhealthy. You know,
Mhm.
uh, it's been tough trying to keep Nicholas Morrow on the field because I think he got banged up at one point. Zach Cunningham again, we're probably not going to have for this game after just coming off of a hamstring issue, and now he is out for I think a knee problem. Cam Jurgens has been in and out of the lineup for the offensive line, and then going back to linebackers, N'Kobe Dean goes to short-term IR twice this year, and he was only eligible to do it twice. So I mean, I think we're both on the same page here when it comes to the defense. Is that Sean Desai for now almost the majority of the year, and it came at a very inappropriate time in a difficult stretch that he was dealt with a short hand in trying to maintain some consistency in the help of his players. The front office is doing what they're trying to do, and it's unfortunately not working. But at the same time, he needs to come up with something not simplistic, but in a way that works for everybody when you have to plug and play people.
Mhm.
So we just talked about that we're not going to have uh, Slay, and I was almost inclined to call him Darius, and we'll get to that in a minute.
No.
We're not going to have Slay now for the Monday Night Football game against Seattle because he had to get arthroscopic knee surgery, and that's about a 4 to 6 week recovery time. So now that you don't have your number one corner, you're going to be stuck with. I say lightly, I say it a nice way. Uh, Keely Ringo, Eli Ricks, Josh Jobe. So if they have to play them in a pinch, you're against it now because who is covering DK Metcalf? And we just watched Keely Ringo commit two fouls on the same play
Mhm.
for 30 yards, and and Dallas ended up scoring on it. I don't think I've ever seen that. I don't think I've ever seen that, let alone for a rookie. But it's very unfortunate.
No.
So, I mean, that's where that's unfortunately where the defensive side of the
Mhm.
football is, and we'll
No.
stick to defense. We'll stick to defense for now.
Mhm.
And if you have anything else to add before we move on, you can do so.
Yeah. I said this on my podcast, Fly Like an Eagle, which is every Thursday night at 7:15. I don't think we should bring Slay and Bradbury back next year. I don't think so. They're
Okay.
getting old. Their price is too much. You need to get younger. We still got Eli Ricks, Josh Joe, like the players you just mentioned. Yes, we can get another player in a draft, maybe a trade here and there, but I don't think we should take them. I don't think we should get them back, honestly. And then you bring up the safety room, that needs work as well. But those are my first two guys. They keep on getting burnt. How many times have we seen their back to us? That's my hot take. I don't think we
Mm.
should bring them back next year.
And it's probably a little more validated because of watching Slay go through this knee surgery for a player that's in their early 30s.
Mhm.
They don't recover quicker. You don't recover quicker. You don't get faster. You begin to get slower over time. But it's how well you condition your body into your older years. And
Mhm.
I think more coincidentally to the last opponent that we played, Stephon Gilmore has still been a contributing corner at a considerably high level in the league. And I think Stephon is about 33, going to be going on 34. And I remember Josh Norman be that in a
Mhm.
used to be that in a sense, and he's still trying to play. So it is possible. It is possible. but it's never necessarily a good position where your number one corner is still getting older in his early 30s and you don't really have a proper backup plan in house to replace them if you're planning on moving on. So I have to ask along the lines of Slay. James and I talked about this, and I already let out all of my opinions. But with with the negative attention that Slay has been drawing to himself
Mm-hmm.
on social media, almost singling himself out in a way that, you know, it's not me, it's the rest of the defense. We're playing like bleep. To me that's just not a good example
Mm-mm.
of you having the responsibility of being a captain on this football team, and you're gonna be quick, you're gonna decide to be quick and single yourself out first and show that to people through social media, which is just it's just a bad idea. But before I go on, because I've already expressed everything about it, I have to know what your stance is and what Slay has been doing through his YouTube channel and talking about his personal performance and just everything else attached to it between, the debate or argument with Seth Joyner and this, that, and the third.
He just he's trying to make a name for himself online, which is good. That's what everyone else is doing. But the way he's doing it, it's not the right way. I mean, to me, I hate to make this comparison. I hate it. Draymond Green with his podcast. I feel like it's going down the same exact way. I mean, just like him doing. I'm not saying he's punching people on the field like what Draymond Green's doing. No,
No,
I'm just
certainly not.
saying, like, with his way he's going about it. And then, did you see that fan on X that he was at the NovaCare complex with Slay
The
and
second
Bradbury?
one,
Yeah,
the trash cans, no play Slay and
yeah,
Bradbury. Yep,
yeah.
I mean, it's still going on.
It's still going on, yeah. And I actually made a video about that. But and then they were tweeting at Slay's wife during the game how bad that is. So it's just
I
like
seen that too. Yeah.
Slay. It's just like in a mid. I think he put himself in a predicament here. He really did. Like, I don't even know how he can get out of it except for the fact that we win the Super Bowl. If we win the Super Bowl, the Eagles fans would just stop. Everything would just stop. Slay would keep talking, but most of all that would stop.
Yes, Philly special cards. That's correct. I believe I'm trying to remember if it's Isaiah Rogers Jr. or Senior. Yeah, we do have him. We do have him for next year because he got suspended. I think for the whole gambling situation and whatnot.
Yeah.
The same thing that the receiver that we wanted from the Falcons that went to Jacksonville, Calvin Ridley. The same thing that happened to him, but Calvin
Yeah.
is playing this year nonetheless. But yeah, we still have him on stash. But yeah, uh, it's it Slay is Slay is producing just negative attention. He
Hmm.
doesn't have to be. I don't know why all of it. I don't know why all of a sudden you're letting social media more so bother you with your performance to where it's come to the point that you have to do that, because not only is that negative attention on you, but now it's leaking into family business,
Yeah.
and that's never a good thing. um why they feel the need to respond to that kind of negativity, I don't know. So, I mean, yeah, it's you know words will never hurt me. That nursery rhyme, sticks and stones break your bones. Sometimes that's not necessarily true, especially this day and age with how advanced we have gotten with being able to talk to people, digitally and whatnot through social media. But it's just my point was on the podcast. you're you're a professional figure.
Mm-hmm.
You play a professional sport. You have a contractual obligation to complete a responsibility due to the craft that you have created from childhood and wanting to get to this point. You are producing yourself as an example to not only kids aspiring to want to achieve that kind of dream. Not only that, but the rest of the young guys in that locker room who are looking up to you on your team, your teammates, the Keely Ringos, the Josh Jobs, the Eli Ricks of the world, those guys who were undrafted free agents that, you know, they're thanking to God that they got that opportunity, and you're over here portraying an image of throwing them under the bus and saying that, my play was good, I did what we needed to do, no, the team played like bleep. You are a part of that at the same time. And we talked about the captain's badge. The responsibility elevates even higher. Imagine this. What do you think guys like Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham think? How do you
Right.
think they feel about this? Who who were a part of the establishment of this kind of culture for the Philadelphia Eagles, being there for over 10 years each, respectively. Same thing with Lane Johnson, same thing with Jason Kelsey. Are they doing stuff like this?
Not at all.
No.
Not at all.
So I mean, come on here, and I understand that, and well, no, I actually don't understand. I don't understand the people that are defending Slay in saying that, people have no idea what he's saying. Yes, we do, because there's two sides to it. Yeah, are people attacking the wrong person? Yes, people understand that part. But what people don't understand is how Slay is approaching it in the way of displaying a level of selfishness that's unnecessary.
Yeah. You nailed it right on the head. Like Jason Kelsey, he had that documentary coming out, right? That
Yep.
he this may be his last year. So why would he or Slay think about doing this when your buddy, your brother Kelsey is thinking about leaving, and you have Lane Johnson, whose years are winding down, Brandon Graham, his years are winding down. It's just like he's putting a bad name in these Eagles vets. Like maybe like if I were the corners, I would sit down and talk to Slay and be like, "What are you doing here, bro?" I would like, "This is not the Slay I look up to. This is not the Slay I
Yeah.
love about his game." Same. Why isn't Bradbury doing anything? That's my question. Maybe he is. I don't know behind the scenes, but if James Bradbury talked to him and gave him some sense, that'll be a huge help if Bradbury said something to him because that's his duo, that's his partner in crime. So
Maybe from a public standpoint, I don't think James has that kind of I don't think he has that kind of figure to him. I think he's a lot more quiet in that sense, and just has more of a business focus, and staying off of social media for those reasons. But at the same time, he's just as much not without blame as the team is as a whole. And this is just, what Slay is doing to me is just an accessory of what shouldn't happen. And I
yeah,
brought up the fact that us Eagles fans and the team and what we witnessed over the years, we don't need to go through it again. Do we need to go through the anonymous interviews and the anonymous messages, and captains trying to captains trying to reconnect the team again, because we remember the Orlando Skandrick situation and other voices are coming out, and it's just a bunch of negative attention. We don't need to go through that again, especially the fact that this is two completely different teams where we are where we have a bigger responsibility in controlling our destiny, sitting at 10-3. This kind of attention it's not like it's happening to a losing football team. This is a team that has built a winning culture, especially with all the coaching changes and everything else spanning from 2020. It's something we're over. It's something we're over with. It doesn't need to happen again.
Mm-mm.
So yeah,
No.
I don't need to rant twice in one day, but that is the crux of where everything comes from. It's just it's just getting back to maintaining the proper maturity of a winning football team and knowing you have an obligation and you know to live up to a certain standard. And right now they're not. And I think a lot of the captains will tell you that, and they have. Jason Kelsey has, Jalen Hurts has, Fletcher Cox, a lot of the more, a lot of the more mature voices, if you
Yeah.
will. But yeah,
Right.
that's it. Philly Cart says, "I know Jordan Davis has been struggling, but can we please keep him because he's a guy on this team and has a good relationship with the guys, especially by singing on the Christmas album." Yeah, Jordan Davis certainly isn't going anywhere.
Mm-mm.
He's already established himself as a massive staple on that defensive front, and he is. I think he is a lot of the reason behind bringing other Georgia guys to this team in the first place, other than the fact that his Georgia teammates are, they were a lot of times as good as him on that same team at the collegiate level with the N'Kobe Deans and Keely Ringo showing something a little bit, Jalen Carter and all that. It just, it created a positive movement. So, yeah, Jordan Davis certainly isn't going anywhere.
Mm-mm.
But we spent so much time talking about the defense that you know the offense is in question as well.
Mm-hmm.
um and I'm battling with this. Personally. Obviously you are of the opinion that you don't think anybody's getting fired between Brian Johnson and Sean Desai. You don't think so. I don't think so. James does not think so, because of the fact that it's not what I don't think it's what the Eagles do as an organization.
Right.
Because if that was the case, um, and if they weren't necessarily satisfied with the result of the first year and how everything happened, and us sneaking into a wild card spot and it not really, and in some areas a lot of promise wasn't shown. But I think if that happens, it's almost not fair. It's almost not fair to Brian Johnson to lose his job after 1 year if they were entrusting that Shane Steichen would get this fixed in year two.
Mm-hmm.
Now I understand from an experience standpoint, Shane's a lot more experienced than Brian is.
Of course.
But a lot of the move also pertains to the fact that there is a long-term relationship between the offensive coordinator who was the quarterback's coach and Jalen Hurts, because he was involved in the family for a long time, and Hurts is a coach's a coach's son, what have you. So I mean, you already said that you don't think anybody's getting fired, but depending on how the rest of the season pans out,
Mm-hmm.
where where would your confidence level be from what we have seen this year with Brian Johnson as the coordinator? and where do you think it is potentially going into next year?
Well, again, it depends on the rest of the season. If we can go like we have 4 easy, I'm not gonna say easy. It's any given Sunday, especially how we play the last 2 games. That's a bad
Yeah.
word for me. What
Yep.
I'm gonna say is, if we can go 2-2, or even if we go worse 1-3, I feel like something's got to change in the last games and in the playoffs. After the playoffs and after this run, I feel like someone's definitely gonna get fired, get changed. But as of right now, how rare is it that you see someone get fired after the first year? I mean, Frank Wright got fired, what, mid-season? Like, how it's very rare. Now, Eagles are calling them for their heads. Yes, it's been bad, but again, we're 10-3. 10-3. I'm just like, I don't understand why everyone wants them gone. Like, I can see how bad we are, but again, we're 10-3. It's
there's a lot
crazy, man.
there's a lot that goes into it, and I think a lot of it, stems from the fact that Brian is brand new. But at the same time, I sometimes wonder how much control Brian has over the offense, being the fact that it has been said this is Nick Sirianni's offense, and a lot of the stuff goes through what Nick has from what Nick has built, um, with a with the game plan standpoint and what have you. But I do remember at one point when Shane Steichen was here that Sirianni eventually gave up all play calling control to Shane.
Hmm.
So I'm wondering to myself, well, how much control how much control does Brian have or don't have? And are the training wheels, so to speak, still on Brian Johnson in the means of, well, you know, does Sirianni have complete confidence in him the way he says he does? So who's completely calling the shots here?
Right. Right. So for who calling the shots, it's a little bit of both. And for the Brian Johnson training wheels, how much further can you get? How much time does he
Yeah.
need? And how much time are we going the fans gonna put up with this? It's
Hmm.
just like bad things then again and again. Same call. I feel like we're playing Madden, right? And you see the glitch plays and using that as working, but it's not working. It's the same 4 plays, give or take. So a lot has to give. A
Because
lot.
I'm wondering to myself, and I don't know if you think this way or not, but I'm wondering to myself if there's a level of arrogance, and James and I talked about arrogance on the podcast as well with Coach. But I'm wondering from an offensive standpoint if there's a level of arrogance where it's I know I know this offense works. The players aren't executing at these points, but if we keep at it and we keep working on the fundamentals and this, that, and the third, I know my offense is going to work the way I intended it to work. So I'm wondering if there's a level of that involved, to where maybe that's why we're not seeing certain route concepts that we should be this year that we were last year when Shane was making it work for the offense. So I'm wondering if, talking about the level of confidence, it just doesn't seem that way to me. It's weird.
It
I'm
it is weird. It is absolutely weird. Like with Brian Johnson, I feel like if he has to change his ways, he's just like gonna look at himself in a bad light. He wants everything to work right on the first try. Look at me, brain, it worked. It's just crazy. Brian Johnson. Has he had any offensive coordinator experience? I don't think so, right?
At the collegiate level, yes, he was the offensive coordinator for Florida in the SEC.
Oh, I forgot about that. I was talking about
Hmm.
NFL, so no.
Hmm.
NFL
Yep.
now. Okay.
Nope, this is his very first offensive coordinator's position in the NFL. So
Yeah.
he was the quarterbacks coach prior to the change, and now he's and now he's calling the plays, or so we think he's completely calling the plays um, for the offense with Jalen Hurts. I just don't I don't know myself. I sometimes have a hunch in the back of my mind that it's about it's about coach thinking my offense does work, and it's a matter of execution. We don't
Hmm.
need to do this, we don't need to do that. We already have what works figured out, and just let's go do it. Like almost from an insanity perspective of thinking you're going to get a different result, and it's just not happening. Because at points this year we're watching some of the game planning against other opponents, and some of the play calls were just genius work. So there is a level of praise there, but at the same time it's completely inconsistent. So I just think, like, what's really going on here? Is there a complete level of trust or not? And it doesn't seem to be that way. And then you have people on the other side of the fence talking about, well, this is a team that's coming off of a Super Bowl, and we don't have time to groom coordinators and this, that, and the third. Okay, you don't. But a lot of times when you're in a position like this and you have the talent to work with, a lot of times it's easier to do so than having a team with lesser talent. So I think it goes both ways. But as we're getting to the 50-minute mark to an hour mark, touched on a lot of different things. Um, Seattle, the Eagles have not beaten the Seahawks in 15 years, since 2008. We don't play very well in Seattle at all. And we go into this game without Slay, most notably. And we'll finish it off with a prediction here. And I gotta know what you're thinking, Mitch. This is a team at 10-3. They've already ruined their playoff seeding. They're stuck between Dallas and the 49ers right now. They got 4 games left, to which we think we're going to have an easy time against the Cardinals and Giants twice. But now we have to face Seattle with some concerns of their own. But I think our concerns are a little bit larger. So what kind of approach have you taken going into this Seahawks game that has created the prediction that you got?
All right. So for me, I just gotta go with the first things first. It's the fundamentals, right? You gotta look on what is up halftime, what is up, man. Thank you for stopping by. For me, it's the fundamentals, right? You gotta tackle, you gotta learn on to hold on to football again. If they can do that, and then the play calling on top of that, and then the players, are just like they're into it, they're ready to go. I'm just that'll be good. Their mind has to be there, their play calling, everything has to be there. But I know the Eagles. I know this Eagles team. It's going to be tough for them going into Seattle, going through all this, right? No Slay on Metcalf. That's going to be dangerous to see. Oh my God, I'm not looking forward to that. But I think they can bounce back. I really, really do. I really
Okay.
do. It's going to be a very close game. Like people were saying, like 32-12, 32-14. I'm like, on what earth is 32-14 or something like that? For me, it's 27-24. It's going to be a hard fought game. We got to get to Gino with the defensive line. I feel like we can. And then, the linebackers have to be aware, especially in the middle. The middle is the worst part of this whole entire defense. People are getting free, especially against the 49ers with Kittle, Debo, etc. We got to keep an eye on that middle. And then with the offensive side of the ball, yeah, I'm finally going to say this, all right? Run the ball. It's becoming repetition, so I try not to say that as much. So we got to run the ball, just be creative. I want to see creativity on this offensive side of the ball because without creativity, we're just here playing Madden. Like for me, I want to see creativity. I want to see heart. I want to see the fundamentals, and I want to see tackling.
So the interesting part here for me, and we went over it on the podcast. First off, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. I picked the Eagles to win the last 2 weeks, thinking that they were going to get it done in close games because that's been their MO lately. It didn't happen. So shame on me for thinking against Dallas that the Eagles were going to get it done. They didn't. So I cannot take them this game. I cannot do it.
That's fair.
My score prediction was 28-17. I think Seattle is going to win this game. They have a lot going for them in terms of home field advantage. The Eagles not having prior success, us without Slay, also potentially and most likely without Zach Cunningham after just coming back from a hamstring issue. He's now out. He did not practice with a knee. Cam Jurgens did not practice with, due to a pectoral injury. So there's not a lot going for us right now. Number one. Number two, it's a wild card for the Seahawks. As of yesterday, and I don't know what the practice report was today for the team, Jamal Adams, Nick Bellior, um, Dwayne Eskridge, Devin Witherspoon, most notably, they did not practice yesterday. Geno Smith has still been limited with a groin, and those injuries can be naggy. A nagging injury, and they can also be tough to work with because of the extent of what caused it and a level of pain tolerance that a player has to play through. Because the last game that Seattle played, Drew Lock started against the 49ers at Levi. And two things that the Seahawks were able to do with a backup starting quarterback is that they came within 3 points of scoring as much as the Eagles did healthy at home. The Seahawks were still able to manage 16 points against that 49ers defense on the road to where Seattle's defense only gave up 28. Ours gave up 42. So so it's like, I think whether it's Drew Lock or Geno Smith, I have no idea what to expect. It's a massive wild card right now to me. And with the way that the Eagles have been playing on both sides of the football, I don't know where the desire is going to be to win this football game, get back on track, and still make yourself a threat in the NFC and not wanting to give up that number one seed, which you may not have a choice in anymore. I mean, there has been so much negative going on this week, and the last couple of weeks they have not been able to maintain a level of bouncing back from said adversity. And I do not think this week, especially on Monday Night Football, is going to be the week that they do it. That they do it. I don't see it. The secondary is too banged up to fight with the likes of JSN, Jackson Smith Njigba, um, Tyler Lockett, who always damages them pretty considerably. And then we talked about DK Metcalf earlier in the episode. Charbonnet at running back is pretty good. He was able to contribute pretty well against the Dallas Cowboys, to which, may I add, Geno Smith managed to score 30 plus points against that Cowboys defense, who had a bad game. They picked on Duran Bland, to which, yeah, Geno threw a pick to him, but they were able to do that. We were not. So to me, there's too many cards stacked against the Eagles, especially when they're less healthy going into this game than they were against Dallas. And yeah, I do not think they're going to win. I have them losing. I have them losing 28-17. And yeah, I mean, I just James and I just do not have. We just do not have the confidence this week.
That's
Shameful,
fair.
being shameful Eagles fans, as we may end up being called. Oh, ye of little faith. What have the Eagles? What have the Eagles shown us to have any uh, these last 2-3 weeks?
Honestly, I'm right there with you, man. I'm right there with you. I've always had that about that Eagles team, man. Just like the confidence is not there, the mentality is not there. It's just like there's a big rift with this Eagles team right now. And I don't blame you for picking Seattle. I really don't. I was this close to picking Seattle to win. I am really close just because we're going into the 12th man, we're going into their stadium and
Yeah,
everything. But I just feel like it could be a wake up call, and especially how there's been like a fracture in the locker room. I'm sure you heard that as well. So
yep, yep.
it's just like all the signs are pointing to Seattle losing. So if we lose this week, I may not even pick Eagles to beat the Giants the first time.
Wow,
Yeah. So that's my last straw. If we
wow.
lose like in the last two fashions, I might even pick the Giants to win with DeVito.
And we already know what it's like playing at MetLife, which is one of the biggest plagues of NFL injuries this year. So, so we still have that to look forward to. We got to go to MetLife one more time. But again, as Coach likes to say, we work on being 1-0 this week, and that's what the Eagles are going to try to do. Mitch here does think that they are going to accomplish it. I unfortunately do not. So I've been fooled twice. I'm not going to. I don't want to strike out 3 times picking them again, but I may strike out either way if they do win because it goes against my prediction. So so
Hey,
yeah,
hey, I'm right there with you, man. I'm down 0-2 in account. If I hit a foul ball, I'm still there. So I'm
right.
just saying,
That's absolutely
I
right.
got the Eagles winning. It might be my fandom, and I take realistic over fandom any day of the week.
Hmm.
So it's just like my last straw, man. My last straw. Even my guest on Fly Like an Eagle podcast, he
Right.
had the Seahawks winning 32-19.
Hmm.
So it's just like a lot of Eagles fans are nervous. Have every right to be. They have
I mean,
every
yeah,
right.
that's pretty close to the prediction I have for this game. So yeah.
Mm.
Um, I mean, with that said, we managed to produce an hour long show. Which I mean, the last one, episode 9 of Touchdown Talk was, it's been an mo. There's always no shortage of conversation when it comes to a show that we do, Mitch. So I do appreciate the acceptance of the invitation for coming on to a new show that's kind of the same that I just do for a network now instead. This was linked in the end zone, episode 4. Mitch Kofsky coming over from Hardcore Sports Network. Again, this was brought to you by Sideline Sports, producted for them. And speaking of hardcore, um, I know you were talking about branching out to Instagram in terms of streaming your shows and other, any kind of other news flashes or news points that you got going on lately, Mitch. What do you have?
So for Hardcore Sports, we just hit 900 subscribers this morning. So that's just amazing. We started like a year ago, so it's just like we're
Right
growing
on.
at a rapid pace. We have like 30, we have around like 30 to 40 people in the network right now. So it's just like it's growing like crazy. And then Edge of Philly Sports, I can't leave them out, man. I can't left
Right.
them out. I'm doing Sixers stuff over there. I'm doing Sixers post games. I got my own Eagles podcast over there. I hop on with their Eagles pregame, post game, depending on how late it is. So, yeah, shout out to them, man. It's a real honor to be with those guys. A real honor.
Good work, man. Good work. And it feels good. It feels good for me. It feels good for me as well. And I may not do video content anymore, but it's still being able to it's still being able to hang out with the content creators that were a part of me establishing my journey as well. So
Mhm.
yeah, shout out to everyone that has been a part of keeping me keeping me relevant in the content space, and joining me for some Eagles conversations as we define the city of brotherly love when it comes to the fandom of Philadelphia Eagles. So, with that said, man, Mitch, I appreciate it once again. And I appreciate to everybody else that has stopped by for this hour presentation of Linc'd in the End Zone episode 4. I'll catch you next week for episode 5 with a guest to be determined, as I always do. Shout out to Sideline Sports for allowing this production to be possible. And I will catch all of you Birds fans later for the next one. Fly Eagles fly. Um, and let's hope they beat Seattle and make my prediction completely
Right.
completely wrong.
Yeah.
So with with that said, y'all, have a good one. Take care. And yeah, that's it.